Welcome to Chez, Genèse, the place of new beginnings. My name is Catherine Hubert, and I founded and own a French-inspired cafe where, as a team, we are on a mission to change the way our world views and employs adults with disabilities. Our restaurant was born and is based in Greensboro, North Carolina, and that's where we practice and teach our mission and model. This is our channel where we dive in deep to who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Our hope is that this content is empowering to disabled and non-disabled humans alike, and that no matter what perspective you are coming from, whether that's employer, employee, parent, friend, or Chez Genèse fan, you feel welcomed, you learn something new, and you walk away with a deeper appreciation and understanding of humanity. Hi everybody, welcome back. We are excited to kick off October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. We want to celebrate that. We want to be part of the push in the initiative to raise awareness. That's a big part of why we exist. And we're excited to spend a little bit of extra focus on that this month and tie it in with some initiatives and pushes that are happening on a national level. So this holiday month is being spearheaded by the Department of Labor, and more specifically, their Office of Disability Employment Policy. So, Department of Labor and their Office of Disability Employment Policy are leading the charge on National Disability Employment Awareness Month. We are going to link below. There's a YouTube video that they have that gives kind of their stance and their focus on this topic, things that the Department of Labor is doing to push and to celebrate disability employment. And then there also is a news report that we're going to attach the link to in the bottom if you want to have a written copy of the Department of Labor's mindset, stance, policies, etc. So that's kind of the overall umbrella, the legal, where is this coming from, who made up this holiday month, who is celebrating it, who is talking about it. That's where it's coming from. It's coming from the DOL down, and that's an exciting thing to recognize, especially for a business like ours that has such a built-in focus around disability employment. We get to share a little extra love and support in that arena this month. So what does that look like just as a whole, and then how are we going to be breaking that down over the month of October? For today, we are going to talk about the push and the focus that the Department of Labor has for 2023 in terms of disability employment, which is access and equity. So we're going to talk a little bit today about those two things and my personal opinion or our business perspective on access and equity. And then as we head into the rest of the month, we're going to be talking about why disability employment is important, who actually benefits from disability employment, and 3 things that every business needs to know before hiring someone with a disability. So our hope is to kind of give some general information and knowledge to get you all excited, to raise some awareness, and then to give you some helpful tips for creating more inclusive spaces, whether that's in your life or more specifically in your workplace. So, diving in, what is access? If you watch the Department of Labor YouTube or read some of their website information about disability employment, you will see it riddled with lots of catchphrases and commonly used words in our culture today, access and equity being 2 of them. And I always feel like it's helpful, like those are buzzwords for a reason. They are important, they are worth talking about, they should be talked about, and they are being talked about, which is why they're buzzwords, and so that's great. But a lot of times when words and phrases just get used repeatedly, we don't always know where they stemmed from originally or really what the meaning is behind them. So we like to take time to actually provide some education or understanding around the vocabulary that we're using so that we're all coming to things from a similar point of view. Not that we all need to have the same point of view, but just so that if I'm talking about access, you understand what I'm actually talking about when I'm saying that word, instead of assuming that we all have the same definition and then not actually taking the time to provide some clarity or some understanding. So that's the reason behind that. What does access look like? I've got 3 different points and takeaways that I want you to have and to hold as we talk about access. Number 1, knowledge of businesses that are inclusive and jobs that are available. This is important for disabled individuals who are looking for employment. They need to know where to look and what jobs are available to them. That is part of access, being able to get a hold of the information that they need in order to efficiently job search, submit applications, etc. So that's one step, is just an understanding and a knowledge of businesses that are making a priority to be inclusive, and then what their processes and practices look like in terms of application and employment. The second one is the ability to actually obtain interviews and referrals. This can be specific towards businesses that make an effort and actually talk about inclusion and disability employment, because again, we're not in a place in our world or in our culture yet where that's commonplace or practice like it needs to be. Hopefully this all will become obsolete at some point, because all of our businesses will be inclusive and kind and welcoming towards individuals with disabilities. But until that's the case, then access, an important piece of that, is being able to obtain interviews and referrals and making sure that they're being given the opportunity to do both of those things. Third, being hired for positions that actually fit a skill set or career goals and dreams. So that's another piece of access, is being hired for jobs that are actually a good fit and something that a disabled person wants to do and then also has the skill set to do. I still see a lot of pigeonholing within disability employment, that there are very limited types of jobs and roles that are being offered to disabled humans, especially depending on the disability, and that's not fair. Part of access is that there are a wide variety of job offerings available. I can use my own business for an example in that I know that not every disabled human has the skill set or the desire or want to work in a restaurant, and that's fine. I'm not going to be a fit for everyone, disability or not. Not everybody wants to work in a restaurant. Not everybody wants to work in a breakfast restaurant. Not everybody wants to work in Greensboro, North Carolina. Not everybody wants to work downtown. Like, there's a lot of different factors. So it's like my job is, and the jobs that I'm offering are specific, and that's fine. We just also need more jobs and more opportunities available. So I am providing access in a small area in order for access to really be present and available within disability employment. We need to see that across a lot more industries and a lot more jobs and responsibilities. And then lastly, I misled you. I'm sorry, I said that there were 3 things. There's 4 things for you to remember. The fourth one is providing a workspace that can be used and is functional for all team members, especially when that means investing in different equipment, setup, systems, etc. So that's the last component of access that I want to focus on today, is once an employee has been able to find your business, they've been given the tools that they need to apply or to be referred in and have an interview. They then get the job that's well suited for them in skill set and in desire or career path goals. Now that person is on the job. The job and the workplace in and of itself need to be accessible in terms of meeting the needs of each individual employee. And that can be across the board, but I would say that's something to especially pay attention to if you're trying as an employer to really create an inclusive and adaptive workspace with disability employment being a factor or a goal. So making sure that it's physically accessible, and that can look like a lot of different things because there are a lot of different physical accommodations that can be made and be considered. Making sure that there's access to information, to policies, to meetings. An example of that would be one of my leaders is deaf. So when we have our leadership team meetings, it's important that we have an interpreter on site to interpret the content so that the information and the meeting is accessible to my staff member who is deaf. So that could be an example. There's lots of different ways that accessibility can play out once someone is actually on the job, but it means that every employee has access and is able to obtain the same level and amount of information, and that each individual employee is able to carry out their job description to its fullest, and that we're providing the equipment or the setup or the accommodations necessary in order for that person to do so. So that is access. Moving on to equity, there are 3 different things, not 4, 3 things that I want to focus on about equity and what does equity actually look like in the workplace. Again, this is not a conclusive list. There are many more things that could fall under access and equity than just the things that I'm giving in this video, but this is a starting point and something that I wanted us to focus on for today. So equity, having a commitment to hiring more than just one individual with a disability in order for there truly to be an inclusive environment. If disability employment is something that your business is focusing on, you need to hire more than one person with a disability. If you have one person, even 2, they're still in a pretty significant minority among your team. And so being committed, not using, this is my own soapbox, I'm going to go off for just a second, step up onto it. In terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion work, humans should never be viewed as a box to check in any area of life or work. And a lot of times I see that in the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it can be, you can have a business who says, oh, we need to make disability employment a focus. Check, we hired a person, and then moving on. Like, that's not really equity, that's not inclusion either. That's trying to use a person to meet a goal or to hit a mark. And that's, I think, missing the baseline or the foundation of why this work is important in the first place. So, we don't use humans for capital gain. Well, that can be a whole separate topic. But another piece of equity is providing advancement opportunities for your staff as a whole, disabled or non-disabled. There need to be room for advancement, for whether that's pay, that's role, that's responsibility, that's all of those things that can and should be built on skills and performance, reliability, etc., commitment to the company. But the ceiling does not need to be set or established for someone with a disability. That needs to remain open so that they can continue to grow and develop within their workplace. And then lastly, recognizing, and we've talked about this before in videos and we'll talk about it again because it's important, recognizing that the end goal here in terms of disability employment is not to have a lot of businesses with non-disabled employers hiring people with disabilities. I recognize as I'm saying that is my current situation, and so let me continue with the context here. I am not the ultimate goal or standard for what I think disability employment or businesses should look like. I am a stepping stone that's pushing the needle further in our world and in my city, and I want it to continue to be pushed further past me. But when you're creating change and you're making movement, you do have to start somewhere. We're taking standards that have been set and pushing them farther, and then that needs to be pushed again further ahead of me. So I just think it's important in terms of equity to recognize that ideally we live in a world where disabled humans are running running things. They are the presidents, the CEOs, the CFOs, the founders. Like, that needs to be part of the fabric of our culture and our world. And not that it hasn't ever been historically, but historically that has still been a pretty big minority. there's been a gap. So just want to acknowledge that my business model is not the end goal for where I want to see disability employment go. But as we're making strides and taking steps, we're pushing us in a direction where disabled humans truly do have the opportunities and the privileges that non-disabled humans have. So that's it for today. That was a lot of information. That was actually a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. So thanks for sticking with me through all of that. Questions, comments, please drop them below. Please check out the Department of Labor and their website and the initiatives that they're pushing through the month of October. And happy National Disability Employment Awareness Month, everybody. We are excited to be celebrating it with you.